Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, I want to show you why a Morgan Stanley expert, a chief strategist at Morgan Stanley, one of the biggest investment banks in the country, thinks that we might actually get a bigger stimulus package than we might be expecting. This is like literally the opposite of what we might initially be thinking. Like, seriously, bigger stimulus package? Like, what are you smoking, dude? But he actually gives a very interesting argument. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and play that clip so we can react to it together. In the first part of this video, I'm gonna quickly just get the first part out of the way so we don't have to spend all that time watching it. Basically, in the first part of the video, he talks about how there are definitely some risks in the market of us maybe potentially seeing a second market pullback. Interest rates might go higher, confidence might go down, we might see, are we gonna see maybe that double dip recession, right? So talks about fears about the market, and then talks about stimulus, which that becomes very important. So let's go ahead and get the headphones, jump in. While I get the headphones and jump in, remember life insurance and 2 free stocks in the links down below. All right, here we go. Just make sure when you get the free stocks, you deposit $100, then you get your second free stock. Okay, so this is it. Oh, and one more thing, you could use that coupon code to join the courses, of course. Don't forget those, that expires soon too. Okay, now the initial part, it gets a little confusing, so I'm just gonna give you a quick clarification here. The reporter says, hey, every day that goes by, it seems like we're less likely to see a stimulus package, right? And that kind of aligns with what we think. We're just like, I'm tired of this crap. Like, would you get us something already or not? Like, this is getting ridiculous. Mike Wilson says, yeah, exactly, but then goes on to talk about what he actually thinks, which isn't exactly what the reporter said. So don't get confused by when Mike says exactly. Instead, focus on what Mike says. It's really interesting. We're gonna comment on it. Here we go. It's unexpected.
There's some other things that you were mentioning could be a catalyst, and that is, I think you think another stimulus round is coming. You think it's likely, but every day that goes by causes a little trepidation or increases the risk that we don't get one.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in election year, and oh, by the way, we're still in a recession. Let's not forget that. I think it's unlikely that Congress will fail to execute on the next round of fiscal stimulus. And in fact, the more they delay, there's going to be a lot of, people upset about that. It probably ends up being bigger than what people originally thought. So,
okay, hold that thought there for a second. That's really interesting. So he says two things. He says the longer time goes on, the more likely it is that basically there's negativity in the market, because that's what he talked about in the first half of the video, how that negativity could continue to exacerbate and actually create more pressure, that people get more and more upset that the government isn't doing anything to help. And that actually might do the opposite, to where we might end up getting a bigger package than if we started with a smaller package sooner. That's really interesting. That's a totally opposite POV of what we've been thinking, because we've been thinking, okay, stimulus is taking so long, negotiations are stalled, this is just gonna fizzle out. It keeps getting smaller, right? We went from the HEROES Act to the HEALS Act to the skinny bill. And it's literally like the proposals are trending down and getting worse and worse and worse. But this guy, as somebody who looks at stocks and the market and works for Morgan Stanley, he's saying, well, wait a minute, the longer they take and the more they bicker, the worse things get in the country, and the more there's actually a need for more stimulus, the more we might actually see a bigger stimulus package passed. And he thinks it's gonna be north of $2 trillion, which, remember, right now, Republicans are at $1 trillion, Democrats are at $2 trillion. He thinks, and this is on behalf of this investment, part of Morgan Stanley, he thinks that we might actually see something north of $2 trillion. That means it's gonna be even bigger. This is interesting. Now, I don't know if they're just being bullish, but remember, the reason he's talking about stimulus is because they're trying to price this into their market expectations. They think that if we get a large stimulus package, it's possible interest rates might go up, and that could hurt the market a little bit in the short term. Maybe that's why we saw stocks go up so much over no deal just yet or a smaller deal. Take a look at the rest of the video here. Let's go into that.
The two sides are still far apart on the dollar amount and where the money's going. But ultimately, we think they settle in somewhere north of $2 trillion on this next round of stimulus, and that's part of the rate story too, right? I mean, obviously, if you don't do any fiscal stimulus, then the recovery is at risk. However, if you do something bigger, then that's another reason for rates why they could go up a little more sharply, perhaps, than what people are expecting. So all these things are kind of coming together.
All right, then he kind of goes on and on about the market and so on and so forth. I mean, that's the stock stuff. Look, I love that stuff too, but for stimulus talk, which is what we're talking about here, I want to know what you think, because, I mean, think about it. It kind of makes sense. If evictions pile up, we get more risks of foreclosures, we start seeing more homeless people, we start seeing more businesses close, we start seeing more schools close because they don't have enough PPE or they don't have enough protections for people, or we see more lawsuits. It's going to be freaking obvious that we need more stimulus, and he might be right. It's weird because Nancy Pelosi's at $2 trillion now and Republicans are at $1 trillion. He's basically saying the need might get so great for more stimulus that both of these numbers are going to be small, and that's going to get moved up, and that's going to get moved up, and then we'll actually see a bigger package, which if he sort of represents maybe some hedge funds or what some hedge funds are thinking, imagine if we actually didn't get a stimulus package. It'd be like pulling the blanket or the rug out from under just everybody. It seems like if the market's still shooting high on stimulus, wow. Like, how come we feel so discouraged? Maybe it's because we've been waiting for like 4 or 5 months now for the second round. But very interesting argument. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think the longer we wait and the worse things get, the more inevitable it is that we'll actually have a bigger stimulus package? And hopefully that is in September. Let me know what you think. Check out those programs down below, life insurance and 2 free stocks with Webull. And folks, we will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.